Winning Blueprint presents.
5 minutes or less.
Had so much success with it before. I'm back with it again, the 5 minute or less series. Welcome. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. Back with the 5 minute or less series. This time, the scheduled release 5 minute or less series. Here with the Super Bowl defending champion Baltimore Ravens. Got 5 minutes on the clock. Let's get started. So you look at the schedule, and the first thing I look at, primetime games. And the Ravens won the Super Bowl last year, so you expect them to be plastered all over the primetime scene. You look at their schedule, they got 4 primetime games. They kick off the season with a game, and normally this is at home, but they have a scheduling quirk, we'll talk about that later, where they don't play at home in week 1. And so they're on the road against the Denver Broncos. That hurts, because this is a good team on the road in week 1. That's not the way it's supposed to unfold. So you look at Thanksgiving, another Thursday night matchup. This time, it's the Steelers. You're at home for this one, so that's a relief, but that means nothing in this series. The Steelers beat you at home last year. You beat them in Pittsburgh. So it's going to be tough. On Thanksgiving, Pittsburgh Steelers, Baltimore Ravens doesn't get much better than that. You look at Sunday Night Football. You have one of those. Week 16 versus the Patriots. You're at home. Remember, last year you were at home on Sunday Night Football versus the Patriots. You won that game. I thought that set the tone for you, beating them in the postseason. So if you can beat them again in the regular season, you'll have that mental edge over them if you see them again in the postseason. You look at Monday Night Football, Week 15 at Detroit. That's going to be a tough game. Anytime you go into Detroit, high-powered offense, going to be a tough matchup. Don't know what the records will say when you get to Week 15, but I tell you what, going to be a very good matchup on Monday Night Football. You look at divisional games. Steelers, you look at them first and foremost when you're a Ravens fan. And Week 13, you're at home for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We just talked about that game. It's Thanksgiving, it's Thursday, it's Steelers, it's Ravens, it's big boy football. That's going to be a lot of fun. Week 7, you're at Pittsburgh, and you've had success in Pittsburgh, more so than a lot of teams in this division. You've been able to go into Pittsburgh routinely and find a way to win. Can you do it again in 2013? You look at Cleveland. Week 2, you're home. Got to beat the Cleveland Browns. And I'm talking not just at home, both times. You want to win this division, got to beat the Browns twice. Last year, you were able to do so. You struggled against the Cleveland Browns, especially in Cleveland. And you have them at Cleveland in Week 9. Got to find a way to beat the Cleveland Browns twice. They really played you well last season at Cleveland and in Baltimore. Got to find a way to beat the Cleveland Browns. Cincinnati Bengals. They're the ones that if the Steelers aren't prepared to really take it to you, they're the ones knocking on the door next. And so you got to be very careful with these Cincinnati Bengals. They're not afraid of you. And so Week 10 at home, got to find a way to get it done in the division at home. Cincinnati Bengals coming to town. Week 17, they got you at home. You got to go to Cincinnati to wrap up the season. So you don't want this thing to come down to the wire between you and Cincinnati in Week 17 because you got to go to Cincinnati to win. And that's a tough place to go and win football games. You look at anomalies. These are scheduling quirks that sees a team play 3 or more games straight at home or on the road, 3 out of 4 at home or on the road, or 4 out of 5 at home or on the road. Most teams don't have 4 out of 5 at home or on the road. It's rare, but it does happen. You look at the Ravens, they do have a 4 out of 5 stretch, but it's at home, luckily enough for them. That's an anomaly, though. So you look at the 4 out of 5 stretch at home. Week 10 versus Cincinnati. Week 12 versus the Jets. Week 13 versus Pittsburgh. Week 14 versus Minnesota. All those games at home. Enjoy that. But just know, you get an anomaly like that at home, they're going to have to balance it out, and you're going to have to pay for it somewhere down the line on the road with an anomaly. And here it is. An away anomaly, 3 out of 4. Week 4 at Buffalo. Week 5 at Miami. Week 7 at Pittsburgh. So tough stretch of football when you're on the road. Got to take care of business. Got to find a way to weather that storm. You look at your bye week. Week 8. That's right in the middle of the season. So you'll take that. You'll run with it. Maybe that'll allow you to recharge your battery and come back and try to give it a go to repeat as Super Bowl champions. You look at COTC games. And for me, COTC stands for Circle on the Calendar Games. And for me, the Ravens have plenty of them. When you win the Super Bowl, there are plenty of games to circle on the calendar. Week 1 at Denver. That's huge. You should be at home in this game. You're not. That's a game on the road. You could start the season 0-1 just because you're not at home. That's a tough game. Week 7 at Pittsburgh. Anytime you play the Steelers, it's a big game. Week 13, Thanksgiving, home for Pittsburgh. Again, anytime you play the Steelers, huge game. That one's on prime time on Thursday night. On Thanksgiving, got to get it done. You look at timeout, and the timeout on your schedule, I think every team has one, is huge anomalies at home. That's a 4 out of 5 stretch. That's a huge anomaly. And you start the season on the road. That should never happen for a Super Bowl champion. I don't like the fact that you and the Orioles couldn't work it out. That sucks. And also, you finish up the season in Cincinnati. That's huge. You got to find a way to make sure that you either have this thing wrapped up or you're already in the playoffs firmly when you go to Cincinnati in Week 17, because that could be a really tough game for you to try to win at the end of the season. You hear that sound in the background, that means this has been the Baltimore Ravens, the Super Bowl defending champion Baltimore Ravens, in 5 minutes or less.
5 minutes or less.